Did everybody sign in on my sign-in sheet here? Did you do that, John?
I would be
Did you sign in, Lauren? Thank you so much. All right, we are live.
Welcome to the February 1st, 2023 meeting of the Lyman Planning Board. This meeting will come to order. This is a public proceeding unless the board specifically votes to go into executive session. You have the right to hear everything that's being said and look at all the exhibits that are offered. If the board votes to go into executive session, the reason for the same shall be stated. Please notify the board chair if you are having difficulty seeing or hearing. This meeting is being recorded for YouTube. In each instance, the burden is upon the applicant to demonstrate compliance with the provisions of the applicable ordinance or ordinances. After the board votes on the merits of each project, it will prepare a written opinion, which will be forwarded within 7 days. The board works for a prepared agenda, and will be considering this meeting's items in the following order. Roll call, determine if the planning board quorum is present, designate alternate as voting member if necessary. New business, Laura O'Rourke, map 16, lot 33, 87 Shore Road, best practical location. Jeffrey and Laura Serrier, map 17, lot 53, 153 Shore Road, best practical location. Response from town attorney on Green Acres Marijuana Grow Facility. In accordance with Superior Court Civil Action Docket Number AP-21-017 ruling. Minutes, YouTube recordings of public, time of public hearings and meetings available on the town website. Review minutes of 1/11/23 planning board meeting. All right, we'll go over
Can we do a roll call,
the,
please?
yes, we can, John.
Kelly Demers, alternate.
Joe Wagner, 26 Day Road.
Don Hernan, 33 Murphy's Way.
Road T2 357 Walker Road.
Cecile Dupuy, 53 Chapel Shores Road.
Paul Boucher, 88 Old Pump Road.
Bill Single, 8 Single Lane, alternate.
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah.
I wonder if you could take item 3 out of order, please.
Excuse me?
Item number 3, if you could take that out of order. Move that to first.
Yeah, we can. I guess we'll start with the response for a town attorney on Green Acres.
Good evening, everyone.
All right.
Do you want to use the podium or place to spread out a little bit, or?
Do you want the podium? I can move it over.
Whatever's better for you. Is it being recorded or?
Yeah, it was
You
on
use them.
YouTube.
It's on YouTube,
Okay.
but this way you can, without mocking anybody's view,
Okay.
you can have a place for your papers.
I mean, I can open it up to questions. I was here, I got that letter that was sent on behalf of the board. I sent a written response on January 18th, 2023. If you'd like me to, I can summarize what I was asked and what I responded.
That would be fine.
Okay. All right, so basically, the question, we had, the last time I communicated with the board was back in August of 2022, and that was after the Superior Court had remanded the Alvis Road Facility, Green Acres, back to the town, and reversed the grant of the permit and sent it back down. The procedural posture of that was, there was 2 components to the appeal. One of them was Jeffrey Demers appealing from the zoning board's decision where they refused to grant him standing. And the other one was a declaratory judgment action brought on behalf of Mr. O'Reilly and others, where they challenged the notice procedures involved with the planning board's initial determination. So there's 2 issues. One, should Mr. Demers have had the chance to appeal? And then 2, were the proper procedures followed for the planning board's decision? The court answered both of those in Mr. Demers and Mr. O'Reilly's favor. Okay, so one was Mr. Demers should have had standing to have his appeal heard. And then two was that the notice procedures had problems with them. And so the matter should be sent back for a new public hearing. We, rather than, take it piecemeal, obviously it made more sense to see first whether the planning board, following the judge's order, was going to approve the project or not after a new public hearing and accepting any evidence on the application. And then if it was appealed from there, depending on the outcome, if it was appealed from there, the recommendation was that Jeffrey Demers be granted standing should he need to appeal from that decision. So that was something that was gleaned from the judge's decision, actually discussed among all the attorneys who participated in the case, and everyone agreed that was basically the effect of the judge's ruling and the proper way for it to be to proceed. Contacted again recently. The question was that because there had been a delay in scheduling the public hearing, whether that invalidated the application in some way. I took a look at this issue, and I believe there was some confusion over what was the planning board reviewing. I think, correct?
Right, that was the
Yeah.
question.
So, all right. So, in my opinion, the planning board is reviewing the application that was the subject of the now determined flawed public hearing. Okay, so I believe that someone asked for a copy of it. The record of the Superior Court actually had the official record of what was in front of the planning board in town. So the application is actually identified within the record by page numbers. I broke those pages out and supplied them to staff, just so you could see that that's the application that was under review during the public hearing process. So I think that answers that question in terms of what was the application. Two, there was some questions about whether this 45-day time frame had invalidated the underlying application. I couldn't find any support for that by looking at the ordinance. I do see something in there, and if we have some more detailed questions, I'll have to pull a copy of the ordinance. But I believe under the site plan review section, it has a section, actually I cited the letter, if people want to pull it up. Maybe it's 835. And it said that it was 45 days after the application was being deemed complete, then the planning board would schedule a public hearing or hold that public hearing. Here we've got kind of an odd situation. The application was deemed complete a long time ago before you even had the public hearing.
Right.
So that 45-day deadline can't really apply, at least in terms of measuring it from the from when the application was deemed complete. And then the other question is, let's say it doesn't take place within 45 days. It's kind of hard. I don't think the applicant necessarily controls that. So I think it was more, I think that portion was probably written more for the benefit of the applicant rather than as a deadline for them, which would cause a penalty if it didn't want to happen. So those were my opinions in terms of whether the application became invalid as a result of the delayed public hearing. In my opinion, at least I didn't see that in the ordinance. I mean, I think in general, if there's requests for information they're not responded to, that can be, can certainly be grounds for a decision, but I think it still has to go through the public, still has to go through the process that's in the ordinance. I think if there's any question, there could be a question posed to the applicant, or they abandoning the project or going forward. And certainly if there was an intent to deny it based on a lack of cooperation or information being provided, probably some sort of notice should be provided before something like that could be sought, or warning.
Planning board asked the applicant twice by email. One was dated September 8th of 22, the other was October 6th of 22, to please confirm the material we had was what should be reviewed. Now, maybe this was an incorrect request. The objective was to just make sure that the planning board members, the CEO and the files, we're on the same page, because some people have a green folder, some people don't have a green folder. There's no requirement to retain that material. I kept mine. We couldn't find the original one in the town records. Then we did find it because it was in a different spot, maybe where it should have been, but whatever, we found it.
It was a giant box of stuff.
Right.
I remember seeing it.
Yeah, it wasn't in the files
Yeah.
where, under a lot and plan where I'd look for it.
Yeah.
And in any case, my point is this, the planning board, myself, for an email, but I copied all the other members of the planning board, reached out to the applicant, Mr. Alves, and asked him, please advise us in writing if this is the correct project material from your viewpoint, that we should be reviewing. And once we have the correct material, we would have copies made for you, planning board members, the CEO, town files, and place a copy on the town website for public information. And then we would go ahead and continue a review. We never received an answer from Mr. Alves. It's not a requirement per the ordinance, as I remember, or as I believe, that we put this on the town website. But starting this past summer, when our CEO and administrative assistant left, we started putting the material on the town website for easier review by members of the public. And I'm not saying that, I can't tell how many people looked at it, but at least this way, the material was available. So somebody, instead of having to come in and ask to read a copy, and the other thing we did was we put a spare copy in the town office for people to check out. To my knowledge of the projects we looked at, there were maybe 3 of those at least that went through the site plan review. I don't know that anybody checked it out and looked at it. They weren't supposed to take it from the town hall, but just based on the sign sheets, I don't think anybody did, but at least it was available. So the objective that, at least from my perspective, was we were trying to find out, okay, do we have the right material? And there was also a question about an updated plan and a letter from the Goodwin Mills Fire Department, which was tab 9 of this package, but we never got a response. And from my perspective, I just would like to see we get a decision as to what we do here with respect to moving forward.
I think, is he here today or is he going today?
Yeah, we're going to see Florida this evening, until March, I believe.
Or communicating? I mean, I think I would just ask straight up if it's going to be, if he's continuing with the application. I mean, yes or no, and then you can proceed to review it. I mean, I think had it gone quickly, it would have basically been, as soon as it come back from the court, all right,
Right.
let's just go back, let's reschedule the public hearing, let's follow this procedure, this procedure, this procedure, this procedure. Obviously, things sometimes don't move as fast as we'd like and all that, but I think, let's not forget, the application was already deemed complete before the public hearing was scheduled. So I don't know that there's anything necessarily needed before the public hearing is rescheduled, unless there's some stuff that might have expired, in terms of timeliness, I guess I could say. Yeah.
If the previous public hearing that did take place is null and void, and there were issues brought up at that public hearing that were incorporated into this application, perhaps the applicant, would want to back that out. Also, the abutters list would be different now.
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
Right, so
Yeah.
those are 2 issues that we have to know from the applicant. Are we going to leave,
It
this
is
the
true,
same, or
because
would
I
you want to
believe-
change? You might want to update some of these.
Well, I do believe that is a good point, Cecil, because that abutters list does have to be updated, and he does have to participate in that process. I believe it's actually his responsibility.
Yes, it is.
Yes.
It's
So
supposed to
I
apply
think that
medically.
there, you'd be like, this has to be updated. There might be other things I'm not sure that might need to be updated, but you're right, the abutters list, now I think about it, is gonna be updated. That has to be done. Because that was one of the things that we kind of defaulted on, even though the abutters list, under the statute, under the ordinance, it can rely upon the tax records. But obviously, one of the parties, their tax records might have been updated or something like that, so.
Right.
Let's make sure that those get done.
So Brad, whose responsibility is it at this point? If the applicant originally got the abutters list from the town and it was wrong, whose responsibility is it now?
Well, all I know is what's in the ordinance, right? And I believe in the ordinance, it said the abutter shall supply, this thing. I think in the past, the town either did it or worked with them to do it, which is not unusual. But at the very least, the town's, if the town does it, we're just gonna be real careful, of what it is. But ultimately, it's their responsibility, I guess, to check it.
Yeah, that's covered in 835 B, C, and D of the ordinance on page 27. And it clearly states the applicant is responsible, blah, 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 blah. And the applicant shall provide, blah, blah, blah. And then it says the owners of property shall be considered to be those against whom property taxes are assessed. And it says failure of any property owner to receive a notice of public hearing shall not necessitate another hearing or invalidate any action taken by the planning board. And that's what's in the.
Yeah.
existing
So obviously,
ordinance.
that does need to be done before you can do the public hearing, because that's what's needed.
One of the things I see a lot of times is someone with acting in good faith will come to the town or whatever, look on the website, look for the owner of record, and it will be Mr. Smith, not realizing that Mr. Smith sold it to Mr. Jones, and it may or may not take several days for the Registry of Deeds to record that, but some other municipalities only update their tax records like the 1st of April.
Yep.
And then someone will say, well, the prior owner is responsible for the taxes up to this point. Then until the second half taxes are paid, then they'll be recorded. So you can have gaps of 3, 4, 6 months when, unless you really know how to search municipal records and tax records, you're not gonna have a clue who the owner of record is. Because you got multiple records that say Mr. Smith still owns 123 Elm Street, when in fact Mr. Jones has owned it for 3 months.
And I think that, that's obviously the case. It's not, I don't think I think that's why they have multiple methods of notice, right? So we have mailings, we have newspaper publication, website is in the ordinance. That's the one that really, the town really got dinged on, was the website. I think that's what caused a lot of the issues. The website, all right? So there's multiple methods of notice. They recognize that they're not all gonna be perfect. That's why the ordinance says they don't want, yes, you could do a title search in every single property to see for sure who owns every single property as of that day. But the ordinance doesn't require that. That's why it says the owners of record of who have been assessed for tax purposes. So, I think we can rely on those tax, but
In this
the
case,
town needs to
yeah.
update those records too. That's the only concern I would have, is sometimes if the town's not updating them as of April 1st or whatever, if they're really old, there's nothing in the ordinance that says anything about that, but, someone could gripe about that, and, legitimately so, because they're supposed to be updated.
Well, you could also, I know in the past, I'm not saying it happened every time, but it's possible to send the certified mail letter, which has the notification of the public hearing to so-and-so or current resident. And then, but you're looking for a signature if you can to get them to sign for it, but.
Yep.
Sometimes.
There's many different ways. Some of it's also can be if someone's applicant and is actually sending the notices, you could try to do additional things. You could try to look, see if there's been a change in ownership. It's not required though under the ordinance. All that's required under the ordinance though is the distance and who's it measured for tax purposes and to send out. And I know that the town does, you know, they have the log and they've got certified mail receipts and the green things. I mean, I think that's fine. I think it's fine. I think that what we just need to do is make sure, hopefully the town tax records are up to date. And then make sure that radius is correct when it was sent out. There was some disputes about the radius too, but those really didn't matter. Those got worked out.
So what do we do if the applicant doesn't answer,
Well,
which is the current case?
since I would say this, all right.
I mean, I just want
I
to,
think it's legit to ask if, you know, if he's moving forward with the project, okay? I think it's legit to ask for that. It's not, that should be answered. And then I would go forward and do it. You know, if you need his assistance with the mailings, you can ask for that. You know, I know what town practice has been in the past, you know, which has been to send out the mailings.
the town sends it out.
Yeah, so.
It's coming from the town.
Yeah.
It's not coming from the applicant.
Oh, I know, but like some towns, like in Sanford, we have to submit the abutter list. We used to have to submit, like if I represented like a developer or something, we used to submit them all kinds of stamped envelopes with the names and all that stuff, and they don't make us do that anymore. But Sanford has a lot of towns have the easy system because they can just go on that, on the map, so they
No,
can.
we don't have it. No, we asked for,
We're working on it.
Yeah,
we just asked for we asked for mailing labels.
yeah,
And then we have to fill out a form.
Yeah.
I mean, just a manual thing. It's not, but we asked the applicant to provide 3 copies, I think, of mailing labels.
I don't think there was that many people in this.
No, I don't think that's an issue. I'm just, the
I
issue.
think it was like 20, 30?
Yeah.
It wasn't that many. I don't think it was that many properties.
One way or the other, I think I can speak for the board and residents of the town of Lyme. I think we want this to have a settlement. Either we're gonna go through, move forward with it, public hearing, go forward, or the applicant needs to say, I'm done. I mean, we've got people in this town that have been waiting for 2 years for an answer, one way or another. And they're waiting for us. We're trying to find guidance to how do we proceed? Do we tell the applicant, if we don't hear from you in 30 days, we're considering the application canceled? Can we do that?
I mean, I'm not aware of anything in the ordinance, but certainly if someone doesn't participate in that process, it could be, considered abandoned, all right? But it's probably an easy way, which is just to, like you said, ask for, drop his decision one way or the other.
With asking the applicant for updated labels of the abutters with the understanding that if this is supplied, that is communicating to us that the project still is a go. Or just a flat out question, do you still intend to pursue the project?
Yeah.
One or the other? Just that.
What was? the
Well,
question?
could we ask for the updated labels for the butters and communicate to the applicant by providing this, you are telling us that the project still is viable.
Yeah, especially if it's gonna be provided anyway in order to move forward with a public hearing.
Okay.
I think that's perfectly fine, yeah.
Right.
Because you can't move forward if you don't send out the notices, I mean, so. But
I have another question, need your opinion on. Our ordinance has changed. So is he grandfathered, or does he have a choice to go with the changes in the ordinance? Would you
I don't know about
consider
that. What's
a new-
changed?
The definition of the different zones?
What are you talking about, Cecile?
The zoning, our ordinance was changed in June.
Yeah.
So, the application now could change if he wanted to revert back to his first application, which was multiple buildings instead of one. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, okay, I see what you're saying.
Oh, that whole thing from the first
Yes,
appeal?
yes, our ordinance has changed, so is he I
That would
mean,
be a new application.
he might want to do a new application. I don't know, but
See, that's where it gets a little
would
confusing.
he be grandfathered in this case? Well, it wouldn't matter because he still would be able, he would still
That sounds
follow
like
the
almost
rules,
a
but-
loosening of restriction.
It is a loosening of
Yeah, so I
restriction.
don't know that it would necessarily be a grandfather situation. That's usually to protect you against a tightening of restrictions.
Yeah,
But we have to go with the ordinance that or the application we approved.
Right.
That was the last one. One building.
Well, but it's not unusual sometimes as a result of a public hearing for there to be changes made.
That's true.
So, I mean, we
Right.
shouldn't, honestly, it's speculation because we don't know what, it's more, you're right, it probably could come up, but we don't know what he wants.
Mhm.
so we definitely need some kind of communication from. the
Nothing
applicant.
changed on the procedure though, right?
No,
That's what I'm
No.
aware
No,
of.
the procedures.
Procedure's the same.
Yeah.
Right, let's, good. Yeah,
Procedure's the same.
we don't make changes on that.
No, we just have to-
I think that's a good idea, what you suggested. I mean, because it is needed to move forward.
And say as much,
Yeah.
that by providing the updated labels,
Yeah.
you are communicating your desire to
Yeah.
continue the
And,
project.
yeah, it's,
The catch now is how exactly do we contact the applicant who's now down in Florida, I believe?
Email.
Um,
No, but suppose he doesn't,
so-
suppose he doesn't provide them.
Well, then.
You can't give him a deadline, can you, or can you?
That was asked.
I just want to get this thing over with.
well, I mean, like I said, I think at some point, I haven't looked at the ordinance for this I didn't find anything, regarding abandonment, but I mean, I would say if you can't move forward with a public hearing, then it's stalled. Dead.
I mean, there's a good possibility he doesn't answer till March, till he comes back. That's quite some time from now.
Well, I guess.
Then the
Um,
2-year limit would have expired.
This, I think, listen, I can't imagine we can't get that if you communicate this, you're not gonna get some sort of response.
Wow,
And maybe communicate, and.
twice,
in that
no
communication-
response.
And in that communication, say that there's a desire on the board to move ahead one way or another on this.
Mhm.
And,
I think
Some
that's-
sense of urgency.
I think, Don, you have to pay attention to the fact your request was for him to resubmit all his information.
No, it
And that
wasn't.
was an improper request.
No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't.
Yes, it was.
I'll read it.
It was an,
I said, this was dated October 6th. This is the second email. I just said, please advise the planning board in writing as to the correct project material for review. I want to make sure we have the right material. Once the planning board has the correct material, the planning board will have copies made for you, planning board members, the Lyman CEO, and town files. Also, a copy of the project material will be placed on the town website for public information. The planning board will then continue the review of this project. Thanks for your cooperation. Please contact me with any questions, blah, blah, blah.
the correct documentation, you guys already went through the process with. So to
Yeah.
ask him for other
I
documentation
didn't
is
say that.
improper.
Listen, you're not listening to what I
No,
said.
you're not
Please-
listening to what I'm saying.
Please advise the planning board in writing as to the correct material.
It's in the office, in the
Well,
codes office.
At the time,
That's
we
what
couldn't
you've got to
find it.
go by.
Wasn't there an instance where Cecile and Don met with the applicant?
Yes,
And
that was
pretty
the
much
first.
Bingo.
verbally asked what that email request, and that was not a matter of submitting something new, but reviewing that what we had was what he felt was valid.
3 communications.
Yeah, and I addressed that in writing on September 8th, which was before this previous one. And I stated in there that we had met and looked at this material, blah, 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 blah. And we wanted a confirmation that the material was correct. But maybe that was improper to ask for a confirmation, but we had some questions about 2 parts of it. One was I think the site plan, revised site plan of 5/19/21. And I think there was also a question about the Goodwin Mills Fire Rescue letter dated 11/18/20, which was tab 9, need to be updated. So my feeling, I'm not trying to give you a hard time. I wish the applicant were here, but I'm just
I don't
saying.
know how you update what you've officially already got.
Hey, Bill, What do you have?
What do I have?
Where's your copy of Green Acres plan?
I don't have one,
Why not?
because I don't have one.
I believe that the entire record of what was in front of the planning board was contained in that, what went up to the court.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I
And so
didn't-
we have a file, the electronic file, which I forwarded over. And that-
I printed out
Mhm.
all the documents. I did not print out the schematics of the generator or the lights, things that were, they weren't part of the application except for as an accessory to that. I can print those out if you want them. It was 66 pages.
That's exactly it, because part of the thing was we needed to know the noise level from the generator. What was the looms from the downward facing LEDs? Where was the fences gonna be? What was the height of the fences? Where was the water reclamation? Where was the parking? All that. What I have, maybe, I may have a full packet, I may not. Some pieces were added later on, some pieces were tossed aside. Well, this has been revised, this isn't relevant.
Yeah.
That, I believe, is what we are asking is,
Hmm.
what are you asking for?
Well, as I recall, that record that was generated for the courts has a index to it. And at least the application was identified by certain page numbers, and that's provided there. Obviously, there must have been other things that were submitted along with it, and that's in there too. There's stuff in opposition too. There's all the stuff that came out of the public hearing, the letters, the emails, all those things. It's all included in the package that went up to the Superior Court. So you have it. At least you have it as a large PDF file, and as I recall, it was generated from from the physical file that the town had. The town had one or two boxes, I don't recall, of physical files.
Who generated that, do you know?
The physical files were scanned and by my office,
Okay.
using an outside vendor, and then reviewed by the attorneys from both sides and determine what had actually been in front of the planning board and what was because the court, when you go through the court, it has to be organized at least a certain
Right, certain way.
so we had to put it in there. There's certain mandatory things in there. There might be stuff in there that wasn't deemed mandatory for review by the Superior Court, but as I recall, the idea was to get everything that had been in front of the planning board was to go from the Superior Court, so they would have a full knowledge. Everyone would be able to refer to things that had been, in front of the planning board, in terms of defending or opposing the decision that had been reached. So I think it's all in there.
So in theory, we ought to be able to take that electronic version and put it on town website then.
Well, it's up to you, whatever you want to put on the website. I don't really know what the ordinance requires.
It
I'll
does-
tell you, it contains a bunch more stuff than.
No, I don't mean the whole thing. I meant
Yeah.
the part about the application.
Just the application.
What I sent was an excerpt out of the record, because I was asked to, could you please supply a copy of the application that was under review, all right? So what I did was I went, I thought the correct way to do it would be to go to the official record to the court, where it identifies what the application is, by page numbers, these pages, I grabbed those, which are, I can't remember, so like 60 pages or something like that, with the supporting material, and I provided that.
Okay.
That was the second application.
Second,
The first application that went up, that was not under review, it was the second application. The one with the buildings are squished together.
right. Okay.
I can email the whole document to all of you. It's just, like I said, it's got the schematics for the generator and things.
Is it in
I
the
just wanna
town's
see what
website
it
as a
is.
single PDF? I just generated an HTML, link over to that, instead of us have them download 60 pages, we just access the link, which brings us to the town website, which opens up the document.
It's just in my, it's not on the website, it's in my email.
It's in your email.
It's in my email.
But if you send it by email, we can look at it, can we? All that.
So I think Joe's idea was a good idea.
I agree. This way, if he responds and sends us the addresses,
I would
intent to
ask
proceed.
both questions. Do you intend to continue? If so, we need this list.
1, 2.
If not, please indicate. and
Yeah.
That's it.
I think
I
that's
just
a
want it done.
reasonable request.
You know,
It's the only way it moves forward is to get, to do the new list anyway. So I think that's the way.
And what I'm suggesting here, going overboard though, in terms of the means of communication, phone, email, and certified mail, just so that it cannot be said that
Probably
We
a
missed
good way to go.
all three.
Do all three.
At this point, yeah, leave no stone unturned.
Mhm.
Put it in the newspaper if you want.
I don't understand what Joe
Personal.
just said. I'm sorry. I didn't hear what you just said.
Communicate this request. 1, 2, is the project going forward? 2, if so, we need an updated list of labels of the abutters, and communicate that to Mr. Elves by virtue of a phone call, email, and certified mail.
And you directed me to the secretary to do
Please.
Does that need a vote? Or just procedures on the
I
board?
think procedure.
Hmm?
I don't think it needs a vote.
Okay, so moved.
Communication has to take place.
With the, to Mr. Elves, those 2 conditions or 2 questions by all 3 of those means. So moved.
I'll second that. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I think it makes a lot of sense. I'm gonna vote. You have any, questions for me?
Well, just one last thought again, maybe in the language of that letter, at least communicate some sense of urgency. Again, we can't set a due date by any means, but maybe something along the lines until such time that we hear back from you, the project is just in suspense indefinitely. And also communicate, there's a desire to move on this application.
We might,
Well,
I mean, it's kind of a gray area, I mean, you can always revisit it if you don't hear anything back.
well, we've
Just say, please respond within so many days, and maybe just leave it at that.
we've been carrying this as since the fall. I mean, it's now, what, 1st of February. We've been carrying this since certainly July, I think.
It was the summer when the first meeting we had.
I
Yeah,
think
July
this came
or
back in
August.
August or something like
Yeah.
that, yeah.
right.
It was,
But
Yeah,
this
so
does
it's been-
show a deficiency
it's been 6
in our-
months.
In our
More
ordinance,
than 6 months.
it does not give us the ability to, for lack of better terminology, kill a prospective project due to lack of correspondence. 2 years from now, whatever, unless we get something back, you can come back, go, oh, I want to re-up this. Or someone in a similar situation that falls by the wayside a couple of years down the road, so I'm gonna activate it, it was never a dead project.
I mean, I don't think the ordinance deals with that type of scenario, but we could use some, I think you could have some common sense, type, arguments if you ever ended up with that sort of weird situation. like
I'm
that,
just
Which you could
thinking-
be like, this is so stale that it's gotta be out, it's gotta be updated. In this case, it was just unusual because it came back and it basically just said, all the instruction was literally just do the public hearing. It wasn't like you need to go back and do, all this other stuff. It was just like, just do the public hearing and then accept all the evidence in, take a new vote, make findings, cover, everything under the ordinance, up or down, however it goes. And if it goes to the appeal, if it goes to the board of appeals, then you get standing. those kind of the instructions. But I need mailing labels, you're right.
I'm sorry.
And a butter list. Good point. Yeah.
It's true.
Any more questions, Maura?
Good.
No, I'm good.
Thank you. It
It's
was
more
nice
Thank you very
meeting
much.
you all. I haven't met some of you, so.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Hope we
Some of
don't,
you I have met.
hope we don't see you again.
No, we always like voices on our side, giving us guidance.
Now he's a lawyer.
The different circumstances.
That's appreciated.
All right, bye.
Thanks for coming.
All right, take care.
And you don't have to stop in on the town's clock. You can come and visit us anytime.
Love to.
Okay, is Laura O'Rourke?
She is not here, Laura's not here.
Mr. Chairman, could we take number 3 out of order because the applicant is here?
We just did take 3 out of order and made it number 1.
Okay, 2 out of order.
Okay,
All in
okay.
reverse.
Yes,
That's fine.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Just keep them straight. So 153.
How do I pronounce your last
It's
name?
actually Carrier.
Carrier?
Carrier.
Doesn't look like it, it's like Syria.
I thought it was Italian.
So it's French, maybe.
It looks French.
70.
It's a long story.
Javier.
And are you looking to build new, rebuild,
We are looking to demolish and
demolish and rebuild?
Okay.
You trucked up here from Franklin, Mass?
There you go.
I did. I mean, this is important. And,
I'm glad you look at it that way.
and I'll say we have long ties to Kennebunk Pond. My wife grew up there and her dad grew up there. Her family's about 90 years on the lake. So,
Oh, good for you. I used to live in Millis, Mass.
Oh, really?
Right.
Right next to us.
Yeah, while ago. That was a while ago. Long while ago. Last year, last century.
Do you want a copy of your application?
I have.
Accepted?
I need big glasses or magnifying glass. Looks like now the leading edge is 81.3 feet from the water frontage.
It's 66.1. The closest point.
I'm looking at the house, not the deck or the deck,
Oh.
or the addition to the deck.
Yeah,
Oh, step
the
down,
corner of
okay.
the cottage now is 81.
Okay.
But then the deck, the closest deck is 66.
All right. So, proposed. So you're actually looking at moving it closer to the water.
Well, no, staying within that 66 line.
So main building, main footprint, it looks like it's being moved roughly to the outside edge of the existing lawn deck.
Yeah,
At which point it'd be, you're bringing the main structure from,
There'll be more square footage closer to the water.
right, he's going from 81.3 to 66.1. Ooh,
Yeah, that's
55.
interesting.
I got a question for Brenda. I was always told that you cannot make a non-conforming lot non-conforming. So we would be allowing the non-conforming, we would be taking the distance which is of the structure, currently conforming, and making it non-conforming.
You can't. Okay, let me look at this. I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah.
So the current
Can't increase the size, I think.
30%.
On anything over 75, after the 75 foot, you could expand. But
If you kept the existing structure, building, improvements in its existing location.
In existing
You
location.
essentially build what you want
You could
because
tear
you're
it down
beyond
and build it,
75
bring it
feet.
back up, yeah.
But where you're looking to make it, bring it closer to the waterfront than the 75 feet, then I'm always stuck on that legal non-conforming, can't make more
So, yeah,
non-conforming.
so my reading, I'm not the expert that you guys are, I'm doing this every day. But my reading, my understanding when I read it was that if we were closer than that 66 feet, we'd be more non-conforming, so we don't want to do that. And then from there, I looked at the square footage requirements within each zone. So at the closer than 75, closer than 100, closer than 250, I looked at what's allowed for square footage in those zones. So I said, okay, let's see, no more non-conforming based on how far we are from the lake, from the shoreline. And then the area within each of those zones meets the requirements. Is there else?
What I understand is that you take the point that the existing structure is closest to the water. So if the existing is closest at 66.1, you can't go any closer than that, but you can go within that. If
So-
if you so choose.
That was my.
Go ahead, Bill.
Yeah, if you don't want, in the last 25 years, I've done 3 places, and the closest point to the water was whatever was part of that structure, including the deck. That was your closest
Right.
point, and you could go parallel, but you can't go any closer. So the point
See,
of the
that's
corner of the
confusing.
dock or deck,
Because we're actually making it, to me, it's making it more non-conforming, having that deck 47 feet wide as opposed to a 10-foot wide one there.
they said that I've always been told, no, that's not correct.
When you establish your benchmark, which at this point is this
66.
66.1.
Yep.
Then anything that's within the non-conforming area, you can increase by 30%.
Or the maximum for that area, whichever's greater.
I just didn't-
No, it's just that portion that, because you can be 75 feet from the lake, so you're about 9 feet too close according to our standards, correct? So-
Correct.
So you would take the area that's within the 75 to the 66, and we can increase by 30% of that amount.
Yes.
So if it looks like the existing house is the red dotted,
But this, you guys obviously understand the zoning standard here, we can look at.
Right, so basically for the shoreline, we're not looking at anything part of that house past 75 feet.
right,
And whatever he's got, the 66 feet, he can expand that 30%.
30%.
But if you go to the standard, I believe it says expanded 30%, or I think it's 1,000 square feet maximum in that zone,
I think the 30%,
whichever's greater, if you look at it.
That's not in our ordinance, that might be in the
Well,
state.
well, we have to go by the state. And for shoreline, we have to go by the state. We don't have our,
Only if they're stricter than you are.
I was gonna say, we could be more restrictive,
You
but
can-
not
I
we
less.
can be more restricted.
Right. And I believe that yours is just a base 30%.
Well,
I'm 75 feet from the water,
I hate you.
exactly, and we could not expand more than 30%. And we're beyond the 75%, because it's shoreline.
Mhm.
It's based on the square footage of your,
If you're beyond.
you can't cover more than a certain percentage of your lot, and when the building, the footprint can't go beyond 30%. And I
But
think
again,
that's
if you-
changed recently to be more restrictive. I attended that seminar that they had, and I don't have my notes with me.
So-
It used to be the 30% did not include going up, but now it does. It's 30% expansion, doesn't even,
So if you go to
Not
the
what you do.
shoreline zoning, page 6,
Yep.
and if we look at C, but number I think that's what he's talking about.
And I think it says whichever's greater.
It says may not be expanded to greater than 1,000 square feet or 30% larger than the footprint that existed on January 1st of 1989.
It doesn't say whichever is greater.
Mhm. It does.
Okay.
So that's what we were.
And I think we need to check with the state to make sure that that's still the case. Oh,
Doesn't have a date on it. I was looking for a date.
Yeah.
It was actually updated pretty recently on the front.
Yeah, it was. It says in there. It says. What doesn't say.
I remember
Amended through June 8th of 21.
28, 21, yeah.
No.
right, but the state rules, I think, are the ones that have changed, but remember the process that was demonstrated to us, you take the existing structure, and you're allowed to move that back as far as you can.
Mhm.
But you can't, I don't know, I think if it's less than 75 feet, you can't expand it, you can expand after, beyond that.
Because from what he shows here for a little deck and what he's got, it's definitely more than 30%.
But I don't understand the 1,000 square feet.
Right.
Yeah.
Whichever is greater, is what it says.
I would want to get a determination on that from Augusta.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah, because
Because one of the things, looking at that, plus reading the definition of structure that we have here, which is unusual that it includes porches, patios and decks and satellite dishes, which is weird.
We don't have to.
Haven't done a lot.
Now, the general interpretation would be is that you could build it to that, but your addition, your reconstruction could not be larger than the existing encroachment on the shoreline zoning, so you would have that 12 by 12 jut out. That would be your improvement within, that would encroach upon the shoreline zone. Because to go and build a structure bigger than what is already there is making a more non-conforming structure.
But then why would they give the square footage guidance? It seems.
The square footage guidance, it would be between the house after the 75-foot mark.
No, but the one you were reading,
Yep.
that's for closer than 75 feet.
Mhm.
It says you can have 1,000 square feet in there.
Is the limit.
Or 30%, whichever is larger, yeah.
Right.
And the point at which that front deck is closest to the water, you draw a parallel line to the water, and everything must be from that line back. You can go wider.
I've seen some buildings just to make it fit into
I-
shoreline.
I've done 3 of them with approval. So,
I do it for a living. I'm looking at an 18,000 square foot property right now.
All right.
I think we need to look at the state rules.
That just gives the building a benefit improvement.
I'm sorry if it's here, I don't see it. What is the size, square footage of the existing cottage?
If you go to the
1,088 square feet.
Okay,
872 square feet.
okay, thank you.
Question, why don't you want to move it back to the 75-foot mark and then you can
yeah.
be within full compliance?
The issue, if you look at this, it doesn't show it on here, but, one is the setbacks from the lot lines, but also there's a hill or a retaining wall.
It's a large boulder, I'm very familiar with the area.
Okay, so there's that, and there's also the septic is like right
Mhm.
here. So we thought it's actually more disruptive to start messing with that hill and start getting in the septic, and we didn't want to mess with any of that.
If you stayed within the existing footprint, you can put a second story on there, still maintain decks. As your proposal will give you no decks, no patio, no further waterfront improvement.
My understanding is that, so this is 2 stories, what we have here,
Mhm.
what we're proposing?
What is,
Yeah,
what you're
my
proposing.
understanding is that the footprint is bird's eye view, it's footprint, it's not area.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Brenda.
This doesn't show where the 75-foot mark is, but just, kind of eyeballing it. It would be back where the actual house starts.
Yep.
Less than
Yeah.
that.
Well, according to the,
Okay, just a minute.
oh, okay, go ahead.
I don't believe the planning board automatically allows someone to build within 75 feet just because they already have something within 75 feet. If they can build something outside of the 75, that's what you're looking
Right, our goal is to move it
for.
as close to the 75-foot mark as we can or back to it.
Reasonable and practical.
Right.
And
So if, I mean, if you were to build the deck and the porch, let's say, down the side of the house, I mean, the objective is to get it outside of 75 feet.
Right.
Right.
You're not obligated, just because you have something within 75 feet doesn't mean you always are able to build on that footprint. So if you come up with a structure, I mean, sometimes even turning structure gets you outside of 75 feet, and going within the 75 feet. Because you only need 9 feet.
Right.
Brenda, if you look on this plan here, the large portion of the main deck, he has a line of 73.2 inches. That's very close to 75 feet. I'd be
73.
Right.
very happy to push it back to that, then he can do what he wants.
And that's what I mean, you have your 10-foot setbacks on each side, so you've got a little bit room there to play too. If you could redesign the structure and get outside, get within the 70, get outside the 75 feet, then you don't even have to be in front of the planning board.
Well, that's why I'm here.
Yeah.
I mean,
And
we know that, I know that coming in.
And then
Yeah.
you're not subject to 30%, you're subject to 20% lot coverage, and you're subject to the setbacks and all of that. What I do is we determine what you have for coverage now. I don't think anybody on the lake has a 20% lot coverage. That would
We
be,
have
that would be fantastic, but it just doesn't exist.
like
So we look
12%.
at what your current lot coverage is, and what I say is, you can't make it any worse. You see what I'm saying? So that is some, I mean, we can usually work with that. So if you were to design a house that you can get out, outside that 75 feet, you don't have to be.
Well, that's why I'm here. I mean, the house is already designed. You have the design.
It's got-
It's this.
Well, it's a deck, the deck, the porch there is giving you the problem, right? The 9 foot. Except for that, you're in good shape, right? Pretty good shape.
Pretty close.
Because your house starts right about 75 feet.
And that.
well, the deck, with the large deck is at 70,
Yeah, I can see that.
yeah, 73.2. If you just build from that point back, I'd be comfortable with that.
But that's assuming that the shoreline is a straight shot like this.
Well, that looks like it's
Most
from a
shorelines
skyline.
aren't, so we want to see 75 from every
Yeah,
point.
From every point, yeah.
And you might find out you're better off. I mean,
That does look like probably the shortest distance from the contour.
If
We're
this
not
is
going by
accurate,
eye
you
line
don't
either.
know.
right, so I mean, it's 66 feet from the shoreline somewhere, but that might be the closest point. So, and maybe it juts out and you get 75 feet everywhere else but that one place. That's something you also look at.
So say it again?
This is assuming that the shoreline is straight across.
Well, you can see it on the survey.
Yeah, there's that one there, Brenda, in the package. It shows
Oh, okay.
a schematic of
Yeah, he's got his
where the
setback.
shoreline dips in and out.
Okay, so the 66 feet, I see that does.
It's from that little.
66 and 1 to the outside edge corner of the leading deck.
Yeah.
So I have the ruling from the state here. It says, a non-conforming structure that existed on January 1, 1989 may be expanded by less than 30% during the remainder of its lifetime. The 30%, and this is bolded, this is probably the new part. The 30% is based on both the floor area and the volume of the structure as it existed on January 1, 1989, but only applies to the part of the building that is within the required setback. I think that's was added.
Oh.
Only applies to the part of the building that is within the required setback. So you can expand after the 75 feet.
And everything
Everything
that's before,
before it.
coming before the 75 feet, you're only allowed 30%.
Right, we're,
If you can't go anywhere else.
No, the 30%
Right.
applies
Right.
to
If you have
Correct.
no other option.
Is it practical to go someplace else? If it is, you gotta do it. If not, then that's when the
Well, maybe we need
variances-
to go up and look at this before we make a determination.
Yeah, we have to look at it.
yeah, I was gonna ask, I heard that the neighboring properties can factor in as far as where they're situated, because both the neighbors and all along here are like.
They're much closer to the water than
Yeah,
yours.
you can actually see it on
Yes,
the,
but
on
you're,
the survey.
you're tearing down and building new.
Yes.
So that's a little different than somebody going straight up with a house or lifting it up a little bit to put new underpinning under it. It's a little bit different.
Yeah.
And even when somebody just like jacks a house up to put a basement under
Yeah.
it, we try to make them move it back.
It just depends on the lot and everything.
Yeah, the challenge is what's behind it. You know, you know that
Yeah,
hill
but
and-
you know what?
And the
That'd be
buildings
a
that grow.
great place to blast it out, put a wine cellar.
Hobbit hole,
Is that?
hobbit hole.
So I thought the first step was to take the existing footprint and push it back as far as you can. So if you push it back, you can't go 75 feet because of that hill.
Yeah.
So that would, but that would force your expansion to go from the side to side.
Mhm.
Exactly.
Go lateral.
Push it back and then top to bottom, and then he can do what he wants. Moving it forward, I don't see it. It can be moved back, it can't be moved back, but it can be moved to the sides. And hate to say it, but cost is not a factor we have to look at.
And I really don't think you can expand to the side at the below the 75-foot mark.
No.
No. That footprint can't get any bigger.
But I'm also looking at, and many times, and I'll say it again, I mean, that's kind of kitty corner on the lot. Sometimes just straightening the
Turning it.
building out
Yeah.
gets you a lot.
Yes.
We've
Yes.
looked at it, we can turn it, but it still has to come back. It still has to sort of carve it in that hill. And I,
There is that big piece of bedrock up there, I've looked at it. I know property.
Can it be more rectangular?
I mean, anything's possible. It's, you know, we have a full design all drawn up for this. You know, be back to the drawing board.
How wide is the proposed deck? That looks pretty wide.
So it's, what's not shown here is,
47 feet
if
tall.
I point to yours. So this is here in the porch right here, and this is the little deck here, and this is the stairs over here. This is the stairs over here.
And how wide is that?
This way?
Yeah,
Nine.
how wide, not long.
9 by 47.5.
So it's 9 feet.
So what I was saying is the frontage that side over here on the right side.
Yeah.
That's the stairs going down, because it would have been easier to put the stairs heading towards the lake, but we got it behind that. Behind the building.
Oh, yeah.
So the stairs kind of wrap around like this.
I got you. Damn.
Well, I think we should set a site walk and go look at it.
Is this survey, was this recently done?
Yeah.
I think the planning board would also like to see the actual building envelope on here that would show what is, where you're required to be. If nothing else was there, your building envelope, that's where you,
Off of vacant lot, yeah.
yes. And then it would, you'd be surprised how much that can it helps you visualize better. That sometimes just repositioning the building,
So you gotta go back.
sometimes moving it in. I mean, it's right in front of the closest point of the shoreline. Over on the other side, it kind of goes out, so when it's just 9 feet, you can often find that.
Yeah, by shifting the house.
We had to angle our
Building new, though.
expansion. We had, our the room that we is really not flush with the house. It's on an angle because we couldn't hit the 75 feet on one corner, so we had to change the plan.
So if you ask Middlebrand just to do the same survey with the building envelope defined,
Well, it's almost here, it's basically, it's the blue line here.
well,
and
it's
pretty
not
much-
showing you the 75.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty much the front of the heated part of the house, that line. Is basically-
Is it two-sided column?
You're saying that blue dotted line, your building envelope?
So the blue dotted line is the 10-foot.
And that's 10 foot, right?
And the 75 is where?
It's approximately the front of the heated part of the new house, that black line. You know, where the house meets the porch deck. Right, the 9 foot.
The blue line is.
Blue line's 10 foot setback.
Yeah, yeah.
Basically, your 75 feet would be right about here. About a foot into that.
Because the shoreline isn't straight across.
Well, no, see, 66 feet to there.
Exactly.
So he has to go back up to here, 75.
75 is up to
You
the
can make
house.
the
Yeah,
front of
see,
our,
that's
front of
what-
our porch.
And see, that's why you.
I've seen it.
I don't blame him, I'm just
I'm
saying.
an appraiser. High-end houses, that's all I do is high-end houses.
So we have that one point in the shore where it comes in, so we carve the porch like
A
this.
little jog out and, oh, yeah.
Huh.
Well, do we want to set a date for a site walk?
Yep.
What's the next warmest day above?
There is
Not
not
Saturday.
Not this weekend.
No.
I was gonna say, this
Going
is-
in that pond, that was a whole day.
We could go ice fishing.
Oh, boy.
Pick a day, Dawn.
Well, do you wanna, well, let's just see how this works out with your schedule, but what about, okay, I'll take a stab here. What about Saturday, the 11th of February?
Perfect.
How does that fit in with everybody's schedule?
Does,
Saturday? the
is that
11th?
sufficient time
For public
notice
goes.
to go with our zoning? We ran into that a couple times.
What was that?
Julie has to post it as a meeting, and she has to post it a week ahead of time. So if she
Oh.
got it out by Friday, it'd be okay.
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 I mean, I'm not, you know, it just seems like it,
I believe it's gotta be a week ahead of time.
Mhm.
So if we have it out by Friday,
We're
it's
good.
a little more than a week, it should be fine.
Trying to prevent,
yeah, I agree, good point. Good point.
bypass the mistakes of the past,
Mhm.
ignorance of the
I
past.
appreciate that. What time?
What time? You wanna do 10 o'clock or, well, are you gonna have to drive up?
It's fine, 10 o'clock.
A couple hours.
Sounds okay. 211.
Right, 211. I mean, this is it.
You got it?
We want to see you, this project be successful because we want you to spend a lot of money and get a high assessment. But we do have to follow the shoreline rules.
If I build that porch like this, that'll.
I don't know, that's,
that'll really
that,
raise the value.
I can see why you want the porch, no kidding. I mean, that seems, that makes the house,
Well,
but,
to me, the porch is where this house starts. I mean,
yeah.
And he's actually very lucky that someone in years past wiped all the trees down to the shoreline.
Oh, it's just got to give you there.
I mean, it wasn't always
There's
that
one
way.
birch tree in the middle there. And, I looked at it, I don't, do you know when they did that? Because I don't know when that happened, but I don't know how they did it.
I traced last hill back to like 89 and that whole front was all cleared out. I'm like, ah, you lucked out.
Okay, so we're talking 10 o'clock then on the 11th?
That's gonna be a busy day for me. Okay, so we'll see you on February 11th, 10 o'clock.
Thank you. Safe home.
Thank
Have a
you.
great night. Have a good drive back.
That's a long drive.
They were.
We're trying.
Yes, you're true.
Thanks for coming. All right. I don't think anybody has-
What time is it? 7:11.
I guess the work isn't here.
She is not here.
Do we act on this anyway? or-
Yes, Brenda has more information, she'll be right back.
Yep.
She helped put the packet together.
Oh, okay.
You
Oh,
probably want to go out and look at that one too,
yeah, we should.
and it's not far from the one we're going to.
Right, it's 87 Shore Road.
Is that one we've already been to?
Nope.
No, that's the other one.
Busy street.
We're seeing all the houses
This
there.
will be the third one on the ship.
A lot of sales in the last 2 years.
A lot of pent up demand, I guess.
A lot of FOMO.
So they're ready to.
We got the overall plan going on now.
I didn't have a copy of that.
Okay, I don't have to find the one. So this project is, the house, it's odd. I tried to give you pictures, I was doing, she just wants to increase the second floor, to meet the side, so it's all the way across instead of, right now, the second floor is halfway across.
Yeah.
All she wants to do.
She wants to expand contemporaries and she wants to make it into a low pitch colonial.
Okay. And, so I wasn't even sure if that's the best practice location. She's not changing the building envelope. She's not encroaching any
Okay, so-
closer.
With this picture right here, she's just adding
Yes,
this red part.
yes. You we made a water line.
Yeah.
I did a deep dotted line, so
You did a
know
fine
which-
job.
Oh, thank you. I didn't get the color.
Oh, I see.
This is the existing building.
And where the red dotted line is, that's all she wants to do is going to add.
This
Oh.
is,
That's the end of the house. That's the other end of the
all
house.
right, got it. Okay.
So I mean, I wasn't sure, do you want to review these when the building envelope isn't changing at all? I mean, we don't sometimes do 30% expansion on the volume, which this would fall under. We do it more, the footprint, I believe, 30% of the footprint, not to exceed 20 feet high. She has determined that the existing peak isn't 20 feet, she's determined it was 19, so she fall under that.
And she's not coming any closer with the eaves. Everything's gonna line up with what's there.
It includes window locks, because I mean, you can't have anything in close. You know, we would definitely want to see that. I've checked, and she's adding 2 bedrooms upstairs, so I checked the septic, and so it is, the 2 bedrooms downstairs is gonna be combined. So she's not,
Not increasing the volume.
extra on the septic, so.
See, to me, this one's a little different because nothing's moving per se outwards,
No, that's right.
close to the water.
Footprints.
And you're gonna be within your 30% just by going up with the roof.
That's half of the 20-foot peak.
Right.
And I think if she stays within all of that criteria, I just, to me, it was borderline coming for you. It's better to
I mean-
come for you and say no. than-
I personally think this is something that Brenda can.
Well, I think.
Okay,
Brenda
no
can handle
problems
this
at all.
one, No problem.
You say that she has existing finished basement.
You know what, I did ask her about it because I wanted to make sure that the foundation could support that extra weight. We did check on that, I can't remember what she told me, I think the foundation is full foundation all the way around. But
Looks
I
like a
will check
block
on it.
foundation. My concern is you mentioned bedrooms and then you're gonna, I'm looking at this picture going, I don't see any egress. That may just be the shot. And then what's to prevent her, say it is up to code, from blocking that off and then creating another bedroom in the basement, which would overtax or
What's stopping anybody that's out there
You can do that
doing it
anyway.
right now? You
they're
know,
conscious.
once they get their CO and I sign it off and I say goodbye.
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna make a motion because this isn't expanding outwards or close to the lake. It's just going up, that we let Brenda handle this one.
I'll second that.
I agree.
Any discussion?
Just a quick question. How,
You don't think that we should check, the rules have changed on shoreline about expansion. I'm quite sure that, I attended that seminar. And
I will check on that, but.
check on that, because I'm pretty sure that you cannot change the amount, you know, if you're not conforming, you can't make any changes.
In the
Other
state
than rebuilding
came out
what's
and
there.
said there were two ways to deal with 30%. The town could not take a little of both, they had to take one or the other. One was a 30% area and 30% volume, but you could go up the typical 35 feet. The other one was 30% area and you restricted to the 20 feet. You had to have one or the other. I thought Lyman opted for option number 2,
Mhm.
which means volume has nothing to do with anything, is what I thought. I mean, it is what it is right now. Now, if the state has changed that,
I think it has, but
I did
think
look,
we
and
should
that
check
all
that.
came in 2015. I didn't think there was any major changes since the 2015. But I will definitely check on that. If volume does need to be considered, then I'll just bring it back.
my only question is, I'm sorry if I'm missing it, how far is the existing house from the shoreline?
It's only about 60 feet.
60 feet's not bad.
It's not that, you've got a lot more to deal with. I mean, I'll tell you this, I'm coming.
I did one in Acton where you had to walk 2 boards between the house and the wall.
is the expansion on the second floor over 75 feet, or is still within the before, ahead of the 75 feet? I mean, the building is, how many? You said 60,
I think it's 60 feet thereabouts.
60 feet. So the building's got to be at least 10, 20 feet long, which would make it 80, is that, you know, how far?
No, that runs
The
pretty
depth.
parallel with that.
Okay, it runs parallel.
I mean, there's no point that's going any closer.
No, they can't go any closer, but I was thinking if that part of the house was on the other side of the 75, and if that roof was, you know, if that second floor is expanding there, then that wouldn't be an issue. Because you're expanding, if you're making it, that the expansion would be within the conforming lot.
Yeah, and not much of it is outside of stuff.
No.
We're gonna be right nearby. Why don't we just take a walk around there after we finish up the one at 11 o'clock, then we can make a judgment
Yeah,
at
we
the
can
next
do that.
meeting.
Joe, can I answer your question?
Yes, you did.
Okay.
We can, but I don't see how you can make somebody move this back when they're not jacking it up.
Right,
They're not
that's-
doing it. I mean, that doesn't even make sense.
Theoretically, you could say, oh, I'm structurally enhancing my roof line.
That's exactly what it is, really. And if she's putting a whole new roof on it, I mean, it's just improving its existing situation.
I don't have a problem with,
So it's just changing the roof line more or
All
less.
it is.
Yeah, 'cause that's what, looks like she's only gonna lift this roof up about 3 feet on one side.
so there's already an existing floor unless it's cathedral ceiling. Do you know if there's cathedral, that's just gonna be flooring on?
Then I think the application would not read expand second floor. Right? It must be another,
Which she is expanding.
By going upwards, she's expanding.
The roof comes down,
Yes.
juts
Yeah, I
down,
see
and it's
that.
like somebody just added on a flat,
A shed roof just for a shed roof.
pretty much.
But is there an existing floor on the second floor?
No,
So
it's
it's,
roof. There is no second floor. It's roof where the floor would be for the second.
so she is adding a second floor.
She's adding a third of a second.
On that side of the house. Yeah, on that, yeah, I can see it from the roof line.
Right.
there
But
is,
what she's saying is she needs new roof. So while she's
Why she's doing it, why not make the whole thing a little bigger,
Right.
a little larger?
okay, yeah, okay.
which to me, you're improving the
I
building.
don't see any issue.
And again, she's not expanding outwards or upwards or lifting the house, so there's no,
Mhm.
I can't see where we're gonna make a
Nothing here for
move
us to look
back.
at.
No. We got a motion on the table.
That's right.
Well, we're just in a discussion part.
Oh, okay.
That's how.
I don't think we should, I don't
Motion,
think, I don't
second,
see any
discussion.
reason to go look at it. I mean, again, it's right there, but it doesn't, what are we gonna do? I don't see any, it seems to me like all you're doing is just completing the roof line and adding a bedroom up there. If that's within the requirements, and then what's the deal?
She's making the house more homogeneous or home and bringing it into more harmony with the rest of the dwellings in the neighborhood versus a contemporary in the middle of seasonal cottages.
So,
But that's not a planning board issue.
Actually, I can't
Planning
use the
board
word
is the
homogeneous
expansion
anymore.
Right.
of a non-conforming lot. That's the only thing that we have to agree that this is not an expansion.
No, it's not an expansion. Again, I don't believe it's expansion because it's not going outwards. I mean, it's going up, it's gonna even the roofs out.
But she
It's
is
still under
adding more
20.
square footage, GLA.
And again, that's where Brenda's gonna make sure she doesn't go over the square footage.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with it. I just want to make sure our I's are dotted and T's are crossed.
so what's the motion?
That we're gonna let Brenda handle this. This one.
Okay,
Move the motion.
Move the question.
Is that Joe?
Now those, move the question, and
Okay.
put it to a vote.
All in favor?
aye.
All opposed?
You dropped it in your lap, Brenda.
It's all yours,
We got it,
Brenda.
Brenda.
Thank you.
She's very happy.
Yeah, if she was adding on outwards.
Mhm.
Yeah, different story.
Yeah, we're doing expanding the outward.
We probably need to look at this, if there's any changes for shoreline and if it is, then it has to be voted in.
It has to comply, right, and that was one of the things that we have discussed about changes in our ordinance. That an important one is to make sure that our shoreline ordinance is up to date because the state changes and we have to comply with it.
And they don't tell us, they just change.
They just change it, right?
Did everybody get to read the January 11th, 2023 meeting minutes?
Yes.
Yes, and watch YouTube.
And watch YouTube. Are we all happy with them?
Yep.
I will make a motion, we accept them as written.
Second?
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
You two guys are that.
I was-
Who goes down to see?
See them?
You were here, right?
No. I guess for our next meeting, well, should we put Mr. Carrier on again?
Mhm.
We'll go look at that.
Yeah.
The next meeting is February 15th.
Yep. We'll put them on for 6 o'clock.
Mhm.
It'll take a while to get used to 6 versus 7.
I did ask, we've discussed the Southern Maine Planning Development, the new fee that they increased. I asked the treasurer, she said we were the only committee that used them. And I did call them and they said, we can still use their services, it's just at a little higher rate. So if you had a lot of, say, subdivisions, you might use them a lot. We've only had 2 over the last several months, so it was taken out of the budget there.
How much was that again?
It was $1,851
Oh, $1,800?
or something, I
Okay.
think.
Yeah.
That was the new rate. We do have their services through the end of June.
Okay.
Okay.
And after that, we can still have them,
We have to pay for it,
but it's,
different rate.
one of the rates was, as a member, it was 85 an hour, and then non-member was 120. And that was the higher rate that they charged for consulting.
I think it's a worthwhile investment. You know,
To have the
They've
service,
referred to
to
a
have
couple
the
things to
AT
the,
doing, yeah.
But we do have, what is it, the Maine Municipal,
Yeah, MMA.
yeah.
If we've had
Which
them
is-
in the past,
Mhm.
if we've subscribed to this in the past, why would we change that? So I think, especially when we have a few subdivisions coming.
Well, the other thing is the applicants, the Southern Maine Planning submits the invoices to us for the time, and then we submit the invoice to the applicant to pay us.
Right, and it states right in the application, anything that we have to have done that they're
Yeah.
responsible for.
It's a valuable resource that if we're paying for it, we should use it, and I think we should continue to pay for it.
Yeah, I do too.
I mean,
But aren't we, but wait a minute, have we used it for anything other than subdivision? It's like $1,800, right?
Not really.
Have asked for some guidance on the LD 2003.
Mhm.
And, you know, just having that resource available. And I've been quite impressed with the folks that have shown up from that
No, they're good.
organization. A very thorough examination of the projects that we put before them and good input for us to chew on, so.
weigh the cost of $2,000 a year versus the cost of attorneys and litigation.
Well, no,
and time
well, what I'm
factors,
saying
as
is-
if that we can utilize them to prevent things in the future.
No, wait a second, hold on. The way I understood it was that if we use their services for subdivisions, that would be billable to the applicant. So we would be using their services anyway. So it's really for anything other than, I would say subdivisions. Because because that's the only thing we've asked them to look at so far this year has been 2 subdivisions, I think, 2 or 3.
To the small activity.
Yeah, so I mean,
Well,
so
I
are
guess-
we getting, what are we getting for that? Okay, so,
Yeah, well, they used to have workshops,
yeah,
but now, it's pretty much since COVID, they don't do those. You have to request them, but then you still have to pay the fee
to have
to
that.
have on top of the membership. And it's just, I mean, do we use their services enough?
Well, that, and if you actually look at the big picture, you're paying $1,800 a year to give the applicant a discount on what it costs them to use this.
That's true.
I kind of see it as a retainer for
Yeah.
questions that do pop up through the course of the year. And I think a good source of guidance.
Hey, Joe, any update on that LD?
I just contacted Mr. Feldman today via email, asking him, did he hear anything in terms of the proposed regulations or anything on the possibility of a postponement? And he answered he hadn't heard anything on either. So, at least. The follow-up question I wanted to pose to him was the advice that he gave us earlier about the single-family housing. Was that, and the accessory dwelling, was that based on his examination of our ordinance or just a generic set of suggestions? So I'll ask him about that and see what he responds.
I think it's a big question.
Well, I think, aren't you
What
looking,
do we need to do, if anything?
but aren't you looking for an answer? Because I think what I heard Julie say was that
Well,
It's right now, it's out of the budget.
It's out of the budget because when we talked about it last month, the discussion was, that was a lot of money. Do we use it a lot?
Right.
What do we get for that? Which basically is not a whole lot. So it was taken out of the budget because they needed it, Jeanette needed an answer right away.
How did they determine that it hadn't been used? Did they go back to see, did the
She
previous?
went, I posed the question, does anybody use this service but us? And she said, no, you are the only people that use it,
So
so.
we don't know how often Patty may have used it.
Mhm.
It may have been a good resource for her, but, is there a record of how much was spent from the previous year of that?
I'm sure Jeanette has that.
She must have that.
Sure. Anything that was spent would be listed. so.
Right.
And don't we have $5,000 in the budget for legal advice?
The legal advice, yeah.
If that's the case,
And
then
consultants.
2 of those 5 going to this, I think would be worthwhile.
So see if I can get it back in the budget.
Fungible.
Okay.
That's okay.
That's like a number.
They can take it out of our pay.
Yeah. Could I mention, may I mention one other thing? You talk about ordinances. Okay, you know, it's unclear in my mind that whether we could do any changes to the ordinances this fall. Apparently we can, because the selectmen have proposed an ordinance which I think has to do with cable. Isn't that the
Franchise agreement, yes.
cable franchise agreement? It's going to the ordinance review committee. So what I was going to suggest to the planning board members to take a look at changes you think we might need to propose, and that maybe at the next meeting, we can at least talk about where we are. We have at least one that didn't, or maybe 2 that didn't pass in the past. But there may be some others. So in other words, it appears that there's an opportunity, if we follow the rules of the new town charter, to get them on the ballot for November. So I would hope that at least the one on contract zoning, and maybe the one on the back lots, which is, we ought to fix that. But I have some typos myself, and maybe you all have some too.
Typos and inconsistencies.
Yeah, and
that
so
we've
I would say if
addressed.
we could, I'm not saying we should go for everything, but at least contract zoning. We know, because I personally, I know I don't want to bore you with that, but it's something that needs to be changed, in my opinion. Now, maybe all don't agree, I don't know, but if that needs to be changed, this could be an opportunity to get on the ballot in November, since it is a general election. There's going to be a couple of statewide initiatives on the ballot. So, and there's going to be another, apparently, probably, hopefully, there'll be another ordinance on there for the cable TV thing,
And the LD 2000.
if we ever can figure out
We
what
got
that,
till July 1.
so. Anyhow, so I just want to throw that out, and maybe we can put that on the agenda for next time, just to see where we are. And try to get those things together in a package so that we don't wait, because the only reason I'm mentioning this right now is because, first of all, there's other ones going forward, but secondly, it's easy to run out of time because of the hearings required, and then it has to go to the town clerk quite a bit ahead of time to get the ballots printed up. So it all adds up quickly, and pretty soon you find out you don't have enough time, and then you've got a problem.
Well, Cecile mentioned that there's some question as to whether or not our shoreline zoning conforms to
Yeah.
state.
Yeah, problem.
Could we ask Southern Maine Development to take a look at our shoreline zoning to see if it is?
That's
And
right, yeah. Yeah, they have to approve our zoning anyway, right, if we make changes to it,
I believe so.
yeah.
Well,
So
we
that would be
We got
good,
money with them anyway through
There you go.
June 30th, right?
yeah.
I just know I called them 3 days ago with a question and I haven't heard back from them yet.
Oh, boy.
They're just,
They're very understaffed, I believe, as you were indicating previously,
as we all are.
as everybody is. Okay, 2 cents.
That's 20 cents now.
Okay, I'm done, I think.
Anything else?
Julie sent an email about the annual report.
Oh.
Oh,
So
yes.
just what we haven't done in the past is just a cumulative statement of
All the
Decisions
projects we
that-
worked on, and
Yep.
decisions we made.
I'm new here. And who writes that? I saw it was really well done last year. It was like a narrative. I
Not me. I didn't write it.
No, I
It
think
was
Patty
signed
did.
by Ron.
I think
I
Patty
thought
did.
you wrote it.
Maybe the secretary should write it.
That's the seal.
I can't even get into the records to see what we've done,
Oh.
you know, right? I guess we had to list,
I wonder if we just
Well, it's on,
got the agendas for the last
Yeah.
year, it's just to tickle your memory.
yeah,
That should do.
they should be on the town website, actually.
Mhm.
They're on the town website. But it's for so I think we've been writing it for the calendar year, not for the fiscal year.
Is it?
yeah.
Because
Yes.
it's like from,
July
January
1st
to
to June
December.
30th.
Right.
Yeah.
It's due April for us, so.
Okay.
For the during the period July 1 through June 30. So I think we,
Fiscal year,
So it is
Fiscal
the
year.
fiscal year.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Oh,
this
so we're a year
from
behind.
the previous one.
yeah, this is a 2019 granted, but I think that kind of sets a precedent.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
So we need 22 to 20,
That seems awkward.
21 to 22.
It's coincident with the fiscal year.
Yeah. It's like a year
Hmm.
behind.
No, 22 to 23, right? We're in
We
fiscal year
haven't hit June
23.
23.
We're in fiscal year 23.
22,
We haven't hit
23.
June yet.
Oh, I see.
It's
So-
a
so
year
from-
behind.
The preceding fiscal year, we did,
So the annual report will be for 22, yes.
Mhm.
All right.
From July 1, 22 to prospectively 30th of June this year.
No, can't be. You can't write a report and turn it in April 1st that goes through June 30th.
unless you're projecting that we're gonna do X, Y, and Z during the
Got it.
preceding months.
So it's like a year behind it.
It is.
That's why I thought it was calendar.
You're about 6 months behind.
I'm more than 6 months.
You
should be about a year behind.
Report.
That's true.
And
So
that's
it's
how we can get messed up with the tax records from sale to purchase.
Yes.
That's versus calendar, is that Gregorian calendar or Julian calendar?
Okay.
It's from their June calendar.
All right, well, I'll make a motion to close this meeting.
We did have a couple of updates
Oh.
on our old business.
Oh, we did.
We did. It's on your agenda.
Yep, read the
No
agenda.
new information.
When all else fails, read the agenda.
The cottages, there was no new information. I haven't heard back from them. The Brock Road Cluster subdivision one, they're focused on their letter to FEMA, and it is being worked on at this time.
Good.
So it's in the process. And Harbor, after hearing nothing from them, they're trying to coordinate with the surveyor to resolve the right-of-way issues associated with the old Kennybunk Road,
Mhm.
hoping to move forward in the next few months.
Okay.
So,
And with the Hopper Road, not the Hopper Road, yeah, Brock Road Quality Kitchens and Bed, what does he plan on presenting that as in his proposal? Because we do not have anything in our zoning that allows for tiny houses, that is for Airbnbs. Closest would be a campground, but these are permanent structures with plumbing and heating and everything.
I
So that
checked
kicks
this
that out.
recently approved, I guess it's a very excellent facility.
Yes.
I called them, and they treated it like a campground.
Right?
Yeah.
The only thing that would fit would be contract zoning,
Yeah.
which you want to do away with.
No,
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 we
No, we
want
don't
to.
want to-
no, we don't want to do away with it. We want to
Correct.
modify it.
Zoning versus an
Or
exclusive.
tighten the rules up a little bit.
Yeah.
We don't want to do away with it.
So
No.
they down every year as a campground?
Pretty broad.
Mm.
Oh, it is, bro. I hear about that, yeah.
Transferable.
Many campgrounds have cottages that they rent.
I'm seeing a lot of them are the park model RVs,
They
which,
have structures that they rent.
which you go to Black Bears, but there still you can drop a trailer underneath, pick them up and haul them
Are we done yet?
Okay, I'm gonna make a motion to close the meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'll call you when I get up in the morning, Kelly.
It'll go to voicemail.
Hey, Bill. Have a second?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm not running off.
You're still on,
Yeah, so I'm like.
I'll go grab it off. I have a question for Rod.
So much crap here.
Trying to decide what to do Saturday. Get movies, stay inside.
Stay in bed.
It's gonna be bad news Saturday.
It doesn't work well.
No.
Get too fidgety. Gotta get up.
They want to
Yeah, for sure.
put an idea.
Okay.